Hello everyone, my name is Yehuda Menashe Goldstein. I am in Kfar Chabad, Israel. It's near Tel Aviv, near the airport. I'm answering my Facebook friend who has raised the question that Mashiach must build a temple in its place according to the criteria of Rambam on the criteria of Messiah, who can be Messiah. One of the criteria of Messiah amongst all the others, for instance, he must be of the paternal lineage of King David. He must bring all Jews to Israel. He must unite Israel. He must fight the wars of God. He must be of the tribe of Judah. And one of the questions that the friend on Facebook asked me is, Barbara, he must build a temple in its place. So we read from the Rambam, this is the criteria, he must build a temple, Bimkomo. Bimkomo is Beis, is B, Makom is place, Makomo is its place, or his place. Bimkomo in his place, or in its place. The Rebbe himself brings a lesson and says that the Bimkomo could mean in the Messiah's place. So instead of Bimkomo, meaning the place in Yerushalayim, the Rebbe in the Sikha called Beis Rabbeinu ShebeBavel, in the Sikhas of Dvar Malchus, the Rebbe teaches us that Bimkomo could also mean Bimkomo of the place of the Rebbe, of the Messiah. So the Rebbe builds brick upon brick on teaching us lesson after lesson, building one lesson on top of the other to teach us one lesson. But you have to first learn um, each building stone, each chunk of information, and upon that chunk, which he connects to your seichel, your logic, he connects to your intelligence, and he says, okay, the Torah says such and such a thing. Now I'm saying such and such a thing, and here's how the two things work together and uh, are a reality of existence in the world that we live in this 2011. Okay, he said it like 20 years ago, whatever he said, whenever he said it, but the point is that he does say things that uh, sound pretty revolutionary, that can have no shaykhus or relative, it's called relevance to the Torah, when in fact they do have relevance, and the Rebbe clearly uh, elucidates that relevance. Now, Barbara has come and said, well, the temple is not in its place in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. So I'm saying, okay, so the Rebbe answers that question, and he shows us that the Rambam gives a criteria for Mashiach, and he tells us that the Messiah, in order for him to be Messiah, he must build the temple in Bimkomo. And the Rebbe teaches us that although the English translation of Bimkomo can be in its place, it can also be Bimkomo in his place, in the Messiah's place. So prior to the Rebbe saying this particular talk, the Rebbe has given many, many talks and has shown who Messiah is. His name is Menachem, and many other proofs to show that he is the one who's the Ben David, Ben Mashiach, sorry, Ben Yosef, Ben David, King Messiah of the lineage of King David of the tribe of Judah. He's given many talks and shown that he's the one that we're all looking for. And he's also now, to answer this point of contention from Barbara, saying that he hasn't built a temple in its place. Well, no, 770 is the place where he's built the temple, Bimkomo, in his place. He's built the 770, and there's a whole history on that. Uh, so you have to, now. I'll try to link you and give you the information of of the talk where you can read and find out for yourself firsthand the talk of called Beis Rabbeinu ShebeBavel, where the Rebbe spells out all the information we need to know about Messiah, who he is, what he does, what he's going to do, what his criteria is, and how it connects to the Torah, and how the Rebbe fits the description. Okay, so Bimkomo, the point of the whole video here now is Bimkomo can not only mean in its place, but it can also mean in his place, mean in Messiah's place. So the Rebbe tells us previously that the Rebbe is Messiah, and the criteria of Rambam to build the temple in his place, in the Rebbe's place, in the Messiah's place, and he built the 770, and we call the 770 Beit Rabbeinu ShebeBavel, a house of our Rebbe in Bavel. Now, New York is where the Shekhinah is exiled to with all of the Jews, because of all the world, all the Jews go out to New York is the most concentrated center of all the Jews. And the exile of the Shekhinah, that means God's presence, goes with the Jews in their diaspora, in the world. And New York is the host of the most greatest population of all the Jews in the world. So the Shekhinah dwells in that particular place the most. Of course, an infinite God has to conceal himself so much so that the world will not be wiped out of existence, because if God revealed himself in his full revelation, it would be like you going into the sun itself, because if rather a light ray going into the sun itself, being completely nullified in the greater light of the sun. So the Shekhinah is just a human revelation of the infinite God, the holy bright light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite light of God. So the Shekhinah is a sight we can see with our own eyes. And it was seen by the Jews in Egypt. And it was a limited vision, a limited something we could behold with our human eyes. But God is not a limited God. So for him to give us the ability to see him with our limited eyes, he had to limit himself so much so that we would not, first of all, go blind or whatever, because he's too bright for us to really, see the full infinite. It's infinite. So okay, so same with the concept of Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is God's presence. The presence of God is continuously dwelling with the Jews in all of their places, particularly upon a minyan of Jews, 10 Jews, and even more particularly upon the place where many Jews dwell, even hundreds of thousands of Jews, which was New York, where millions of Jews, could be up to 6 million Jews, live in New York. And now, in the actual location where the descendant, the paternal lineage of King David, from fatherly line all the way down to the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, where he made his office and headquarters of Lubavitch in 770 Eastern Parkway. He has taught us that this is Beit Rabbeinu ShebeBavel. 770 is the gematria of Beis Mashiach, and B, that's Beit Yud Taf Mem Shin Yud Chet. This is a gematria of 770, and he's taught us through more lessons and more lessons, and they all make a unified uh, like course or a group of lessons on all about Messiah. So this is called the Devar Malchus series of lessons. And from learning all of these things, we can piece together uh, all the things the Rebbe taught us on who Messiah is, what he's about, what he's going to do, and the criteria of him, and who is not qualified, who is qualified. So, okay, now, so Bimkomo is in the Rebbe's place. The Rebbe teaches us, okay? So he teaches us kind of in a suggestive way, but he intends it in a very direct way, that the Shekhinah dwells with the Rebbe. The Rebbe also teaches us that the word Rebbe is three letters in Hebrew: Resh, Beis, Yud. Resh, Beis, Yud, he gives us as an acronym for Rosh Bnei Yisrael. That means head of the children of Israel. Israel meaning Yaakov. Yaakov being the leader of the Jewish people. So the Rebbe is an acronym for Rosh Bnei Israel, and the Rebbe tells us that he's the leader of the Jewish people through this lesson. And the leader of the Jewish people is the teacher of the Jewish people. He's the entire he's like the Moshe Rabbeinu Hador. He's the Navi Hador. He's the Nasi Hador, the leader of the generation. And he's also Mashiach Hador. Not only is he the potential Mashiach Hador, he's the actual Mashiach. The Rebbe teaches us that all sevenths are dear. And he taught us this the earliest stages when he brings us the sikha called Basi Lagani, I've come to my garden. And the Rebbe cries during this in deep emotion, um, explaining to us that he's the one that is going to fit the criteria of the Rambam and be in accordance with the entire Torah, be occupied in Torah like King David his father, draw all Jews back to Torah and mitzvahs and tshuva, and returning to the Torah, the Jewish ways, the covenant, and bring Jews back to Israel, build a temple in his place, its place, his place, and fight the wars of Hashem, of God. Okay, now you can read these in Hilchas Prophets and Kings and Rambam Hilchas Prophets and Kings, and I'll post a link to my YouTube video where I read the chapter of Hilchas Prophets and Kings where the Rebbe, where Rambam tells us these criteria. All right, so there you go. Chag Hagula Sameach. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm turning 40 in 2 days. I'm turning 6 in 3 days. Figure it out. So, Chag Sameach and all the best. So, there you go.